Hello, Sherman here. Leave a Legacy, episode number 40. I want to talk about mentors and how critical they are to someone's progression. First is, I know I'm going to get a comment about this, the flaming eagle. Favorite animal, eagle, if I were to be an animal. They're majestic. They're kind of loners. And they have white hair. It's kind of cool. So when it comes to mentors, there's a huge opportunity right now in the marketplace. We call it the silver tsunami. There's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day, and that gives you an opportunity to tap into their information, their experience, learn from their mistakes, and really listen to their advice. The other thing when it comes to mentor is that it can be either formal or an informal relationship. So let's talk about the formal first. It's where you would identify someone that you trust and that you think could give you some good career advice, and you come to them and say, look, I would like to look for a mentor. I want someone to be able to give me advice, to be able to be candid with me and help me get to that next level. Now, before going into this mentorship, note that you want to be able to set the expectations. Know ahead of time, is this someone that you want to grab coffee with every quarter? Is it that kind of regularity? Or is it something that you just want to check in on a 6 months or a year basis, so that you can then put down as maybe a referral partner if you're looking to get to that next career? Or if you're looking to really step outside of where you're currently at and change industries, maybe become an entrepreneur or have a startup, then you want to be able to make sure that mentor knows really where you're coming from. You don't want them to think there's some kind of bait and switch move here where all of a sudden next thing they know you're going to be trying to sell them Amway or investing in your business when that's really not their cup of tea. And so this mentoring relationship, you want to be able to have some parameters. Obviously, if you're looking at this person as being very successful, they're going to have a very limited bandwidth to be able to give to anyone that wants to be able to give it to them. And so you want to be able to make sure too that when you're sitting down, it's not just shooting the breeze, having a nice conversation, catching up, or whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. That you're actually having a fruitful, meaningful conversation that's actually beneficial not only for yourself, but ultimately as well for the mentor, that they really feel like they're helping you actually move forward in some kind of progression. If after a year of having these one-off conversations, and there hasn't been any movement on your part, you haven't gone and gotten your MBA, or you haven't decided to start that business, then that mentor is going to find this relationship not very fruitful, that you're not really following the advice that they're giving, and again, not of any use. And so kind of set those expectations up front, so that way that mentor knows where to go, and ultimately know from you, what do you want out of that mentor. And if it's more of an informal process, this is where there's someone that you maybe associate with, you really trust their advice, you see them as being able to add great value, and then it's going to happen as the natural relationships occurs. Maybe you go to the same gym, and there's these casual conversations that you're having, and you can get good advice that way on where you want to take your career. I know for myself, early in my career, when I was working in corporate retail on the buying side, I literally hated that job. And so I remember talking to several people that I went to church with. A couple of them worked for big healthcare companies in town, and then one of them worked for an insurance and financial services company. And I were just talking to them about the next progression. Should I go to graduate school? If and then they gave me great advice on what they thought about graduate programs. And then the other person that I actually had a nice, great conversation with, he was very analytical, very process driven, kind of ran his life on a spreadsheet. And when I asked him about where I wanted to go, he just took a step back and said, well, where do you see your strengths playing out? And I told him, I've always envisioned myself, hey, if I'm in my 30s, I'd be, shaking hands. And he's like, and I said, like, networking. And at first he thought like I meant like IT networking, putting hardware and software together. And I said, no, I meant like, that I'd be really well known. And he's like, what, like a politician? And I said, no, I don't have a knack or desire to really get into politics. But I just like the idea of associating with people. And that's really where the evolution went for me on the sales side of things, and ultimately then working for myself. Then when I got into the sales, then looking for mentors that were just crushing it. asking them what their process was, what was their language, and going about it. Sometimes there was some investments involved in regards to taking someone's process and literally buying some of their CDs and their sales language, and literally listening to those CDs, sing them over and over in the car. And so that's really the key piece of the partnership of a mentor, is as you ask for their advice, it's then the implementation. That is the most critical in all of this. Because if you ask for someone for advice and then you don't institute it into your life, then it's just a total waste of time. You're wasting their time because you're not really listening, and obviously you knew better. The other thing is, when it comes to critical feedback or advice in this scenario, I treat it just like the Cinderella method. Unless that person truly knows you and your strengths and your weaknesses and ultimately where you're trying to drive to, they can't get inside your head, right? And so oftentimes they're going to give advice that, based on their experience, based on what they've seen, they think could be real valuable for you. And then for the Cinderella method is basically, if that advice, if that feedback fits, then do it. If not, then walk away. And don't get upset that, no, they said this, that, and the other thing. And that, again, when you're going to someone for advice, have thick skin and understand that that advice may or may not apply, and that they're trying to give you the best direction based on the information that you've given them. Question for you is, do you have a mentor? And what kind of impact have they had in your career? Have a fantastic day, everybody.